All right, we're live again with another episode of Purpose Maker, a Midlife Wisdom podcast. My guest today is a special friend of mine, Ernie Wood, and I'm going to read over Ernie's thing. Ernie, welcome. That's fun.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me. I love it.
Oh, this is good. So I'm going to read Ernie's little intro so you can learn a little bit about him, and then we're going to discuss, we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to discuss a lot of things, but one thing we're going to discuss is his book. So he is a published author. This can be fun. So here's what we got. Ernie was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. He joined the U.S. Navy when he was 17 and retired after 20 years of service. He completed 12 years of service on 3 different destroyer ships. Ernie completed 1 tour of duty as an addiction counselor and another one as a police officer. Those will probably have some good stories.
There were some good ones.
Yeah. Ernie wrote a book about happiness titled 12 Steps to Happiness, so we're going to dig into that. And he currently works for the FAA as a radar technician. He's currently living in Asheville, North Carolina, and he plans to return to Michigan upon retirement. Ernie, there's a lot in there.
There is.
Do you know, did I tell you my middle one went to the U.S. Naval Academy this summer?
You did?
Yeah.
Yes. Middle one, I thought it was the oldest.
No, she's doing the Air Force.
Oh, they grow up so fast.
They grow up fast. Yeah, she just had her, I think they call it the appointment interview with Bergman's panel. So she's trying to get into West Point, the Naval Academy, or the Air Force Academy. So we'll see if she can get that nomination.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
It's been fun. All right. Well, I love starting right at the beginning, and that means the beginning of your life. So let's go back to Detroit. Let's hear a little bit about Ernie and growing up and where you grew up and how far south. Were you below 8 Mile? Tell us a little bit about that.
I am, pardon me, I am the oldest son of a family of 6 kids. I have a sister that's older and everybody else is younger than me. And we started out in Detroit and it was just love, fun. We ended up spending some time on 11 Mile and DeQuinder, which is the north side. Nowadays, it's not so pleasant to be there. And the last house we were in before we left Michigan was on 9 Mile and Van Dyke. And that's no good anymore.
That's a rough neighborhood now.
Not the place to be.
Yeah.
But my dad taught us through a church called Unity about love and respecting each other all the time, no matter what. And so, believe it or not, as kids, we never fought. There was never a fight between me and my brothers and sisters. We didn't argue. It was all, the house was just based on love. And from that, we respected each other. We had fun. We adventured. And at one point in our time, we did go to Florida. We left Michigan. I think it was in April. We had a horrible snowstorm. And my dad says, when this stuff thaws, we're heading south. So we got down there. We got down to Orlando. And we found ourselves homeless. So all 6 of us were in a tent, a 4-man tent. And then my dad actually slept in the back of his pickup truck. And that was rough. But we were all kids. And again, it was just respecting each other. And we turned it into an adventure. In the middle of the night, we'd jump the fence and grab a bunch of oranges from the orange grove and then make fresh squeezed orange juice and sell it to the campers. So we were in a tent for a few months. And it allowed me to really understand and respect the gifts that we have, even running water. So even here in Michigan, there's a couple times my pipes have froze and I didn't have water. Now I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So every time I go to a faucet and I flip that nozzle and water comes out, I'm grateful. So I guess I've always been happy and I don't know why. Couldn't figure it out until I got out of the Navy. And we'll talk about how the book came about.
Yeah. So here's the book, 12 Steps to Happiness. You can see that. Where can we find this if someone wants to read this?
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon?
There's a few books out there that are titled 12 Steps to Happiness, but if you type my name in with it, it'll come up.
Yeah, Ernie Wood, W-O-O-D, last name.
So after living in a tent, I decided that as soon as I could, I was going to join the military. And so I'd signed up when I was 17. They wouldn't let me go in until I was 18. I had to finish high school. But once I turned 18, I joined and never looked back. I knew I was never coming out until I got 20 years done, which was interesting because other people would play off their emotions. And it'd be time to decide, am I going to reenlist or am I going home? And then they would be all upset and pissed off. And next thing you know, they're getting out.
Right.
And I never had that option. I knew I was going for
I'm
20
doing
years.
20 years.
Right.
I'm in.
I wanted stability. I wanted an income, health care. And now at this point in my life, I didn't realize when I was 17 how important healthcare was. So
Yeah.
I get that for the rest of my life, cared through the VA.
Sure.
So that was a blessing that I didn't recognize. I didn't realize. And actually, let me back up a second. I was working at a construction company when I was 16, almost 17 years old. I was in Florida, and they were building a school. And my job, I was a laborer, and I was moving bricks, broken cinder blocks. So for the first hour, I'm moving these blocks. I'm like, I'm going to get in great shape. Second hour, I'm like, okay, starting to get tired. Third hour, I'm beat. And here I am, a young man. All I'm doing is throwing blocks into a front end loader, and some guy drives them off once I fill that front end loader. And I look up, and this old man comes up there with a crippled body, and he's all busted up, and he starts grabbing bricks with me. I said, sir, what are you doing? He says, oh, I'm a laborer with you. And we're both making $5 an hour at the time. And that was back in 1982, 83.
Right.
And $5 an hour. I said, don't you have a family and a house? And I'm looking at it, and he's just beat up. And he said, yeah, I have a family, a house, a car, all those bills. I looked at him. I said, I do not want to be like that. So I went home, told my dad that night that I want to join the military. And I had enough with tents, so I wasn't going to the Army or the Marines. So I wanted the adventure.
The Army likes their tents.
Oh, yes, the Marines. So I wanted a place that gave me 3 meals a day and a bed, and that was the Navy. So I wanted to travel the world, have some adventure, meet people, meet new places, and experiences. So I ended up joining the Navy and took off as soon as I could.
So roughly what year was that?
1985.
1985 you joined. Okay.
Yep. And
was that down in Florida?
It was.
Yep.
I went down to Florida. I spent a couple of years in Great Lakes learning electronics and radar. Great Lakes is over in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And then from there, my first ship was out of Charleston, South Carolina. And an interesting thing about that is we were all 19, 20 years old. Not everybody on the ship, obviously, but most of us were young sailors.
Yep.
So we're still developing, trying to figure out ourselves, much less relationships and other people.
Yeah. Our identity, right?
Exactly. And one of the interesting things about that is I'm still close to those people. And these are lifelong friendships that we established when we were young, and we're all in that development stage. So the 2 ships after that, I didn't have the same relationship because, we're all more established.
Sure.
We're doing whatever the mission for the ship is.
Well, the bonding's not there. You're not
exactly.
You're not all young.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's always dynamic and changing. But when we were young, another thing that I had to consider was if I'm in a fire, that guy next to me has to pull me out. He has to go into the fire to pull me out, and I have to do the same thing for him. So there was a special bond that we were all there together. And plus we were away from our families, so we only had each other.
Sure.
We'd do these deployments for 6 months at a time out in the Persian Gulf, and literally sit in the corner in the dark for 6 months. So all the secrets come out because there's nothing else to do. So I tell you everything about me, and you tell me everything about you. And that bond is still very strong with those guys. So that was wonderful. I moved on. My next job was a police officer, my next tour. And I did that for 3 years. I love that job because every night was something different. Now, I didn't have a lot of the drugs that a typical state trooper would have, and all of our stuff was inside the fence. So there's already some filters there. Yep. So I didn't have a lot of crazy people, but there were, I just love to help people. So if some lady had a flat tire, I would be the one to change the tire, right? I'm not going to watch her, sit there with my lights and make sure nobody hits her. So I loved helping, and even unlocking people's cars. That was one of my favorite things to do. Somebody'd call up, hey, can you come down and unlock my car? And we'd go down there with this special tool. I loved it. Yeah. I loved helping people. I learned a lot about that job, or with that job, about people. Again, this whole life thing is about people and relationships, right? Start out with 6 kids. My dad raised us through middle school and high school. And in the Navy, it's all about relationship, what we learn, and these young sailors. And this just continues. So the next thing that happened was I had to go back to a ship. So I went back, and this one my brother was on. So we did brother duty on the ship for 3 years. And that was wonderful because every port we go to, I'd look at a topography map and find the biggest mountain we can climb.
Let's go hike it.
Go hike it,
Yeah.
grab our bikes, and we take off and we have fun, and we come back, and then we go out for dinner and adventures after that.
Sure.
That was a lot of fun. And then my last tour of duty, I was an addiction counselor. And one of the interesting things about this is I wanted to be an electronics teacher. I didn't want to be a cop. I didn't want to be an addiction counselor. So I didn't have an option. When it came time for me to get off the ship, they said, "Okay, Ernie, you got to go. But unfortunately, we need you here." And I did not want to be a cop. I did not want to be an addiction counselor. But that is part of the plan, and it all worked out so that now I have this book.
You got some extra knowledge.
That's right.
So, as an addiction counselor, were you a counselor on the boat, or were you a counselor like on a base?
On the base, at the medical clinic.
Okay.
Yep. It was in Memphis, Tennessee. Okay. And the
beautiful place. I've been there.
It is.
Yeah.
And the thing I learned there was really how to talk to people, when to listen, when to speak, how to listen, and how to get deep conversation with people. And that's my favorite thing to do, is just talk. And that's one of the reasons why I love this podcast.
Yeah, podcasting that's what it's about.
That is. Yeah. That is. And just finding out what people's courages are, what they love, what they don't love, what they try to avoid. And imagine a number line, and on one end we have love, the other end we have fear. We all act, our behaviors fall somewhere on that line, and for some reason. So I like to explore that. And as an addiction counselor, they used to call me E.F. Hutton in training, because they said when Ernie talks, people listen. And because it's just a matter of connecting, right? Sure. You have energy, I have energy, and we are together. If we have two flashlights and we shine them in the sky, that energy combines. So the flashlight's stronger. There's no way to separate my flashlight from yours. It's the same with our soul energy. We're all in this together. So throwing all that together and learning how to talk with people, it allowed me to go really deep into conversations really quick. Sometimes even at a cash register, I'll go through and I'll just throw some, I call it a home run question. I throw this home run question out to them. Next thing I know, they're telling me their deepest secrets about their life and relationships. I was like, I'm sorry, this probably isn't the right place to get this deep, but we'll go as far as you want to go. Mm-hmm. And that was another thing I learned, is don't push. One of the quickest ways to go deep into somebody's conscious mind and conversation, the most powerful thing I've ever learned is reflection. So I will tell you, wow, you look sad. Mm-hmm. And if I'm wrong, you'll correct me right away. And not just you, but anybody. And sure. I do this to kids, because kids only know to tell you what the truth is, right?
Right. No filters.
They
don't lie.
That's right. They don't lie.
Yeah.
So from that one reflection, that one act, you can go very deep with people very fast, and you'll break through all their boundaries. I'll say, if we're talking about something, I'll say, that looks like it really is stressful for you, or was stressful for you. And then they'll tell me why it was. And before you know it, it's really deep.
Sure.
The superficial conversations, just, I really don't want them. I wouldn't shunt them away, because some people aren't ready to talk deep, but I don't care about the weather, right? It's Michigan. It's going to get cold. Why complain about the weather?
You don't care about the weather, but all you do is program radars so that our planes can land safely in bad weather. Thank you, Ernie.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Isn't that what radar work is? Isn't that what you do?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're always calibrating them.
It's advanced electronics, and I work on the landing systems and some of the radar feeds and radios. There's a lot we do there at the airports.
Sure. And so did this government shutdown affect you a little?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We did not get paid from October to yesterday. I think we got paid yesterday. October 1st.
Now, were you still expected to work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you're climbing towers.
Yes.
Doing all this stuff.
Yeah. They consider us essential safety people. So
that's kind of true.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. What I would like to see, though, the next government shutdown, really shut it down. I mean, just
whole thing.
The whole thing. Airports, flying.
Stop it.
And it will last for about 2 hours, and then they'll figure out what they got to do. But this little passive aggressive, we're going to shut you down, stay away. Yeah, it's a crock.
Yeah. Well,
it's
you
not
know, it's a
effective.
bargaining chip. I mean, that's what they're doing with that.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
But they're playing with people's lives, right? Fortunately for me, I'm financially established that it was a pinch, but
Right.
there's some people that really got hurt during this thing.
No, you're right. So the SNAP benefits and all that.
And that is not something that we should be playing with.
No, I don't think people's lives should ever be a pawn
No.
in that negotiation. Yeah. So
after my last ship, I was on a destroyer out in Hawaii, which was wonderful. And then I did my addiction counseling. And after I got done with that, I got out and I got the job with the FAA. And every morning at 5:30 in the morning, I start talking to my dad on the way to work. So Monday to Thursday, I'd call him and we'd talk and I'd take notes over what we discussed. And it was always spiritual. It was not the superficial conversations. It was, I'd throw a question out, why would people talk about this? Why would we do this? And then I'd call it chopping it up. And I would take these notes.
You'd figure it out.
So we still have these conversations. They're not as deep as they used to be, but for 12 years, I took these notes. So I had piles of notes. And he told me, he says, one day you're going to have to write a book. I said, Dad, I don't want to write a book. And he says, you're going to write a book. You can't have a bird cage and not put a bird in it. So I started laughing. Well, next thing you know, I wrote this book. And writing it was very exciting. The writing was the fun part of it. And then the editing took a long time. And then the pictures, legally, I had to have the original sent to the publisher so that it wasn't a copyright fraud. And I told him, I said, yeah, I did all the pictures in there. Those are mine. He said, that's not good enough. We need the originals and we need you to release them. So the editing took quite a bit of time.
Yeah, so let's talk about those. So there's lots of visuals in here. Everyone was hand-drawn by you?
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so Ernie's an artist too, but most people don't know that.
No, they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm doing right now, my niche right now is white squirrels. We live in North Carolina in Asheville area, and they have white squirrels running around all over the place. So they actually have festivals and parades for these things. So I paint them in a position of very famous paintings of the U.S. So I have my favorite one is hanging up in my office right now. It's George Washington crossing the Delaware. But he's a white squirrel. So all the sailors or the soldiers it's the exact picture that is painted, but everybody is white squirrels. Awesome. And it's pretty cute. It's pretty cute.
That is cute. All right. So you get through the editing process, and then how much longer did it take to get the book finished?
There was a couple of delays I had there. I went through a divorce and the lawyer told me, don't finish the book until that is all cleared and gone. And the editing and the pictures took quite a bit of time. So it should have taken about 6 months, but it took me about 2 years at that point. So I did actually work on the book for about 3 years, and then I put it aside and got wrapped up in life for a year or two. And now I got back into something more stable.
Sure.
And the book was important. I actually went to a medium one time. This is so interesting. It was a Halloween party about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was a big house in Detroit. And somebody told me there's a medium upstairs in one of the bedrooms. You guys should go check it out. So I went there to this bedroom to show my girlfriend what this is all about. So I was going to pay the $20 for her to get a reading. And we walked into this bedroom, and this lady's all, it's Halloween, so she's all dressed up, and she got her tarot cards there. And she doesn't know me. I don't know her. And I was here for my girlfriends to get a reading. The lady flips the first card over and puts her finger right in my face. How come the book isn't finished yet? I was like, oh, you got me. You got me.
Wow.
So she didn't know anything about it. I never told anybody about this thing that wasn't finished. And I was like, okay, I got to get this done.
There's your sign, huh?
Yeah, that was one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So have you done any speaking since the book's been published?
A few, yes. And as a matter of fact, in 2 weeks, I'm doing a Unity Church in Oklahoma City. I got to go back for school, and they've asked me to give the Sunday service based on this book and the conversation we're having right now. Nice. So it will be my first actual Sunday service. I've done a lot of they call them forums, or before church, 9 o'clock in the morning, we all get together and talk for an hour or so. I've done quite a few of those, and I really enjoy it. But the Sunday service is going to be another stepping stone. This is my first podcast ever. That's going to be my first Sunday service ever. So
yeah,
I'm
it's
looking
good
forward to
stuff.
getting
So
it.
you're gaining some momentum. I like those.
And it feels right.
Thank you for coming on. This is going to be
thank you.
Fabulous doing this.
Thank you.
Okay, so I remember years ago, you and I've got a great history together. We've taught some classes. My middle daughter, her first time hunting was out at your ranch.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that was what a wonderful memory. I'll just recount that because it was so neat. The four of us sat in the blind together.
Yes.
And we're right off the edge of the swamp. And, a couple big deer walk out, and she asked if she could take the biggest one. And all four of us, my middle daughter, my youngest, you and I, we were sitting a little raised, aren't we? Because we had a great view.
Yes.
And she harvested that deer. It was so fun. It was just a great day.
One of the things I love to do at that Morning Wood Ranch is take the kids out and let them experience what that is all about, hunting, and let them know to appreciate Mother Nature and get the squirrels running around and chipmunk in the blind with you. It's a lot of fun. And for them to have that experience, even if that's the only deer they ever harvest in their life, they've done it.
Oh, it's a great experience.
It is wonderful.
So
love the youth hunts.
Yeah, no, it was good stuff on that. Yeah, and then I call you yesterday and you're like, yeah, I got 2 bucks down. So you love to hunt.
I do. I do. And it's about sitting in a tree. The first night I was watching the sunset and it turned purple and pink and orange. Next night, and it's super quiet. You can hear the deer walking around, squirrels and birds chirping. It is just wonderful to be out there and enjoy Mother Nature.
I sent a meme to my buddy about hunting, and it said, it's a front row seat to the greatest show on earth.
Exactly.
So that's what you're describing with all that.
Exactly.
So I remember from one of the things, the seminar you and I had hosted years ago, you had drew out a diagram on systematic happiness.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Will you tell me about that? Well, how about this? Let's go backwards and tell me how you created that first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I did 20 years of Navy, I was getting out, time to retire. And I was reflected back on that 20 years. I said, how many days of that 20 years was just terrible, which I never wished to ever happen again. And it was only about 6 days that I could remember. Like, wow, 20 years, 6 days were bad. Why?
Not too bad.
No, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Why did I like it? And other people I know got out at the first opportunity. I started really breaking that down. And then I heard within a couple of days of that thought, I heard on the radio, there were chaplains and ministers that were watching or sitting with people, giving them their last rites. And they asked them, what one thing would you like to do in your life before you die? Every one of them, there were like 7,000 people that they talked to. Every one of them said they'd like to visit somebody, a loved one or a friend. Nobody said, I want to get back on my bike. I want to get up to my mountain ranch home and watch the sunset. It was all about relationships. People. And that's when it hit me. Holy cow. It was the relationships that I built on the ship. And so and we've already talked about that, the 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. And so from those relationships, I started thinking, okay, well, that's the purpose of life then. It's relationship. It's not about how much money I can accumulate. Of course, that helps.
Sure. I mean, yeah,
it's part of it. You're right. It's part of it.
Yeah.
I think it was Groucho Marx that said, he was saying something about money will cause your death or something. And he goes, well, I want to have enough to choose which way I'm going to die. It was something very similar to that. So you're right. It gives you options. Mm-hmm. So from that, from that and all the notes I started writing, and it was all about relationships, everything. The cash register lady that I'm talking to and ask her some deep questions and then break down those barriers and filters. And next thing you know, you're talking to their heart, who they really are, their principles. And I just find so much thrill. I got chicken lumps right now just thinking about deep conversations.
Yeah, the connection.
Yeah. Sure. One of my favorite things to do with my current wife is road trips, because we sit there and we'll play a podcast and listen to maybe one sentence or one paragraph, and it would stop. One of us would yell, pause, and then we chop that up. And you can find some deep stuff about the person you're with and yourself.
When you stop and talk.
Right. Yeah. Why did you have that reaction to that? Did I have goosebumps just now talking about a cash register lady that I don't even know? And really break that down. And it's the relationship thing. It's what I think life is all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've got a lot of that in my life. My wife and I have coffee every single morning. We start having coffee about 6:15 before the kids are even out of bed, and we have these conversations, and it allows you to orient yourself in this world by conversation. So if you have a good conversationalist that is a friend or a spouse, life is much easier. Right. And that's kind of why I started this podcast. Because what does this do? It allows you to have amazing conversations, allows you to dig into things. And as we were talking before, we call this a midlife wisdom podcast. And the life acronym is LIFE, which is the 4 ways that you can pour into somebody else through your labor, your influence, your finance, your expertise. So you're touching on like the expertise. Your expertise allows you to connect deeply with people. So it's a real nice, it's a joy to hear how you do that. So now we got systematic happiness. So we're going through this process of you figuring this out. 6 days, misery in 20 years, but otherwise it's been pretty good. Keep going with that story. How does that play out?
So after hearing that 7,000 people who were dying or thought they were dying wanted to have one more visit with a relationship, somebody that they loved. From that, I said, okay, this is all about relationships. So then I started thinking, what can we learn from relationships? What's the most significant relationship we can have and the least significant? So then I got to thinking about like a Walmart greeter, right? I'm walking past this person, male or female, and I don't know them at all. They don't know me. And what can I learn from them and they can learn from me? So right off the bat, I was thinking compassion, right? Here, usually they're old or they're handicapped, disabled, something's going on with them. And so I'm walking past this Walmart greeter and I can learn compassion. I can learn service. I can learn hope, faith, love. There's a bunch of different things I can learn literally from just walking past and saying good morning to somebody. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end of that spectrum, I thought, well, what's the most important relationship we have? And I started thinking our spouse. But then I got thinking, I dug into that one. I was like, no, that's not everybody's married. Nope. And not all marriages are good. So our most important relationship is yourself. So on one end of the spectrum is a stranger. The other end of the spectrum is yourself, the most important relationship you can have. Mm-hmm. So from that, I said, okay, so now we've got this ladder, this scope of a stranger to myself. What is it that I can tell myself and teach you and teach a stranger, and then I can be taught the same thing from them? So I started listing these things down, and they actually came very fast. I call it a spiritual download. I'm driving, and all of a sudden they boom, 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 boom. They came. I pull off the side. Yes,
right. I've had those.
Yes, I do that quite often. I pull over and I start writing these things down, and I had 11 of them. And I said, "There's something missing. There's something missing," and it was hope. Hope was the last one that I was missing, number 12. So I wrote that down, and then I started really breaking them down into what each one can do, what it has to offer, what's the definition of it, right? And it's very interesting. I dug into hope for a long time. It took me a while to come up with what I think is a proper...
What hope is.
What hope is, right? Because we hear people say often, oh, you just have hope. You got to have hope. I'm like, well, what is it? It's all over the place, all over churches and religious...
what do they mean?
Statement, right. What is hope? So what I broke down with hope hope is a self-established timeline to end the pain and suffering.
Interesting.
So if I don't have the money to feed my family, and which is interesting because we just went through this shutdown.
Right.
If I don't have the money to feed my family, I hope that my next paycheck comes in with enough overtime on it
to cover the
food.
Yeah.
So the timeline is my next paycheck. So that is what hope is, a self-established timeline to end the struggle. And that works every time so far. And I've had people discuss this book and run through it.
They should, right? Well, I mean, that's what you want.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
And there's a flow chart in the back that I know I have run through it at least 1,000 times with other people.
Is the flow chart the systematic happiness?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell me how the flow chart flows.
So the way the flow chart came about, I was in Oklahoma City, and I had just spoke to a church on Wednesday night, one of the classes on systematic happiness, and the lady, one old lady in the back end says, "Ernie, this is great. She goes, I love what you're saying. I'm on board. She says, but when you leave tonight, how am I going to remember what to do? So I posed that question to my dad the next morning on the phone call with my brother, Ben. And the three of us, I think my brother, Ben, says, we need a flow chart. And boom, spiritual download. I literally pulled off the side of the road right there and just started
the flow chart,
just putting the flow chart down. So from the flow chart, you start out as an observer, right? What's happening?
You said it's in the back here?
Yes. There is a flow chart back there somewhere.
Yep. So I'm just going to listen as you talk about it.
So from the you're in your happy space, and then something happens, an event happens, whatever it is. It could be, well, it's northern Michigan. Let's say that I slipped on ice. So from that point, I ask myself, am I an observer or a participant? If I'm an observer, then I just take in whatever is happening, right? I'm creating memories from this observation. If I'm a participant, then I ask, what do I have any control over it? And what it all breaks down to is the only thing that we control is our thoughts, right? That ice, I have no control over that ice. I could have done some things to mitigate the spinning or the accident or whatever, but it's all about thoughts. So if you run through this thing, no matter what the scenario is, what event you got going on, this thing defaults to get you back to a happy spot. And what it boils down to is maintain your principles, and then just find something happy that will make this event turn into something positive for you.
Better than it was, yeah. You call it the life operational manual.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I've had people try to test that to fail it, and it's succeeded every time.
Sure. And you're putting some hard life events through here.
Yes. There's a couple of them in there. There was a lady who was sexually assaulted in Central Park. And this is a true story. She was sexually assaulted in Central Park, and she played the victim role. And she just went to all these different meetings and like 12 steps meetings. And she says, yeah, this happened to me. This happened to me. This happened to me. And finally, one of the instructors said, the facilitator said, well, why don't you turn that into something positive? So her light bulb came on, and she went ahead and started this program for women to protect themselves, know how to stay out of danger so that kind of stuff doesn't happen to them. And now she goes around the United States as a speaker. Teaching
how to be safe.
Right. So she went from that victim role over to the other side of doing something positive with the same scenario, right? Whatever happened in New York still happened. She didn't change that. But it's all about the outcome and what you decide to make out of this event.
So let's, I think divorce is a big thing in midlife. Run that through your systematic happiness. So how would that go through that flow chart?
Can I look at it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to be as accurate as possible. And I don't have my reading glasses, but we'll give this a shot. So a divorce, you're in your happy spot, and you or your spouse, something happens, and you decide, or they decide that it's time for a divorce. So that's your event. From the event, the next thing is, are you a
participant or an observer?
Observer or participant?
Clearly a participant.
Clearly a participant.
Yeah.
And then you break it down from there, and you'll ask yourself, what control do I have over this? And now here's a couple options. You could try to make it work. You could walk out. You could put up with it for the rest of your life, whatever that is, whatever the scenario is.
Sure.
And then it gets into a couple of loops where you got to ask yourself, are you assuming? Because assumptions just tear you apart and the other person and the relationship. So you got to have the courage. So one of the steps in here is have the courage to ask those questions to remove the assumption, get rid of the assumption, and then it will break down to, are you maintaining your principles? And are you doing your best? So as you start applying these things, it will send you directly back to one of the last steps is having the courage to ask the questions, to remove all the assumptions. And is it something that you can forgive? Is it something to have compassion for, knowing that the other person is going through whatever they're going through also? So it's a shared experience. You're not on your own.
Sure.
And then if you did what you were supposed to maintain your principles, then there's nothing else you can do. So forgive them, forgive yourself, and then go back to happy spots, or go back to your happy place.
You can't control the outcome.
You cannot control the outcome.
Right.
And so there's a series, there's a couple of loops in here where if you don't have the courage, you'll end up getting stuck, and you just keep on going back. Did you?
So the courage is the crux. Like, you got to have the courage to ask the questions.
That's interesting. One of the 12 steps lessons is courage.
Right.
And it's either the Hindus or the Buddhists say without courage, you cannot do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have the courage to be honest, then I will lie to you. I will lie to myself. In fact, one of the classes I taught was a woman's weight loss program. And so I'm giving them the 12 steps of happiness, showing how they can apply to their weight loss and all this. And this one lady came in and she's eating a Twinkie and she had a McDonald's shake or something. And she's sitting in front of it. She happened to be in the front row. And she says, "I'm on Jenny Craig." And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking about honesty, right? You can tell me whatever you want. I don't know what the truth is.
Sure.
But if you start lying to yourself, then you start lying about everything. So if I don't have the courage to tell you, hey, this is a real big struggle for me, then I could end up getting wrapped up and start making excuses. And I just keep on going down that line. So
sure.
I think it's the Hindus that say courage is the most important of all these ideas, because without that, it won't work.
Right. Yeah, no, courage is a good one. All right. So then as you're speaking about this and applying it, you're telling me a story about a young lady. I think it was a nurse. Remember that story?
Keep going.
Yeah. And it was on the first chapter where you talk about the banana.
Oh,
yeah.
The banana. Oh, yes.
Let me hear that one.
Recent story.
Yeah.
Okay. So a close friend of mine works in the ER as a nurse, and he just read this book. And so he was telling me, let me give you the quick down and dirty. You control your thoughts. That's one of the interesting abilities of a human, is I get to choose whatever thought I want. The key is to choose something that makes me feel better, because I could go out and say, well, let me just stick to the ER scenario. My nurse buddy had a patient that came in that had a very traumatic experience, and he had to stick his hands within the torso of this patient to try to keep them alive and keep them together. And it was very traumatic for him at the time. So he's going through this. He's got his hands inside another person's body, trying to manipulate organs and stop the bleeding and do whatever he can to save this person's life. And he was starting to lose mental control there. So he immediately went to what I have in the book as an example. Think about a banana. Now, the banana doesn't mean anything at all, but what it does, it gets you off that thought that was really messing you up. So whatever struggle you're having, he remembered in the book the exercise of think of a banana. And then from that, he was able to pull himself out of there emotionally. He still finished the job, of course, but he was able to not be upset because he wasn't thinking about having his hand inside somebody's body, trying to keep them alive. So the example, I guess I should have started with this. We have the ability to control our thoughts, and that is the only thing that we control. And we'll break that down a little bit. So in World War II, there was a German death camp, and there was a cellar. There were a whole bunch of people down there that were dying. They were not coming out of there alive. And there was a ventilation tube that came up above ground, and you could hear the moans and groans and crying of all the people down there. And this rabbi walks by, who was also a prisoner, and tells one of the guards, stick me down there in the cellar with them. And they thought they were crazy, but they stick the rabbi down there. And within 24 hours, there was laughter, church hymns, singing, and their lives didn't get better. But this rabbi knew, let's get their thoughts focused on something better for them. So he went down there. They were still all in the same scenario, but their thoughts, they chose the thought that was better, and they ended up laughing and singing.
Right. They're probably thinking about the afterlife by that time.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe.
Right? Instead of just their pain.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, a rabbi would definitely.
So from that, the example that I use in the book is I want you to think for 30 seconds about the most important thing in your life. It could be finances. It could be your health. It could be your family, pets, whatever it is. Think about it for 30 seconds.
Mhm.
And I'll let them work on it, let them work on it. And about 10 seconds into it, I'll say banana. Now, the task was you choose what is most important to you about your life. And that's it. That's the task. But when I said banana, you immediately thought about a banana.
Everybody.
Everyone
listening just thought about one.
You're right.
Yeah.
So the key is pick a thought that works for you, whatever the scenario is, right? Sometimes we have to be the survivor mode. Sometimes we're just, I'm in Mother Nature, sitting in a tree, looking at the sunset. So just enjoy whatever thought you need. Pick a thought you need to get you to where you want to go.
Wouldn't there be some argument that marketing places thoughts in your head, though?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
So how could we say that you control your thoughts all the time? If I can just put up a Coca-Cola ad and all of a sudden everyone's thinking about Coca-Cola, they're trying to influence behavior.
Right.
Right. They want you to go buy a Coke. So how do you manage marketing?
Figure out what you want. If I want a Coke, then that's a perfect time to get one.
Yeah,
if I
is
don't,
true.
I can look at that and say, that's not going to do me any good. That's not going to get me where I want to go. So if somebody pops up a Coke or a pizza,
it's not a part of my life
right
plan. It's not getting me healthy. It's not smart.
Yep.
Right.
Cigarettes, they're just not for me.
Right.
I don't want one.
Even if they put 100 ads up.
Yep.
Right.
They just don't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just start to build those mental walls around things, and Yeah, I'm not very influenced by marketing just because, well, first of all, I don't watch a ton of TV. So you're not getting me in there, and I'm not on my phone a ton. I'd prefer to read. All right. So learning new ideas and doing that stuff. All right. We'll keep going with some of the stuff. I want to go a little deeper.
All right. The filters that we observe life through are made up by ourselves. However, they're usually provided as when we're young children through our parents, our grandparents, the church, school, our culture. These filters, if we were to go to South Africa into a tribe there, their filters are totally different than ours. Their lifestyles are different than ours. If we go to the South versus the North, our filters are different. So there's nothing right or wrong with that. But the key is we have to come up with these filters that work for us. So it's...
You know what I mean? As we become adults?
Yes.
And as kids, you're just given.
Right. Just given.
Yeah.
So one of the examples I use in the book, and I love this story, is I'm in Detroit. I want to go outside and play, and it's getting dark. The sun's going down. And my mom would say, I'd say, Mom, I want to go outside and play. And she says, you can't go out after dark because the boogeyman will get you. So I'm like, boogeyman? My eyes get big. I've never heard of this thing called
Who's
boogeyman.
The boogeyman?
So then I go to my dad and I said, Dad, Mom said I can't go out because a boogeyman will get me. And he's reading the newspaper, and he looks over the newspaper and he says, yeah, the boogeyman will get you if you're out after dark. So as a little kid, they're establishing filters. And so guess who's afraid of the dark for the rest of their life? Me.
Still?
No.
Okay.
This is an example.
Yeah.
So we're talking about filters and how you get built and how they influence you. So here it is. And this story didn't really happen, but it's a good example. Through lazy parenting, I'm now afraid of the dark. It's a filter that I have to deal with. So as I get older, I have to look at this. I call it scrubbing your beliefs. And I look, okay, I'm afraid of the dark. Why am I afraid of the dark? Is there any reason to be afraid of the dark? So as an adult, I start scrubbing that and figuring out what works for me and what doesn't work for me. If it doesn't work for me, it's a used sweater. Get rid of it. It was never mine in the first place. If it works for me, keep it and wear it. Make it part of you.
Oh, yeah.
So back in about 2007, we had a German exchange student come over from Germany. I picked her up at the Pelson airport, and he didn't speak a lick of English. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. I've got this little girl now. I think she was 17 years old. I said, I've got this little girl for the next year.
Living at the house.
Yeah. And I cannot communicate with her. I was like, what am I going to do? So come to find out, she knew a little bit of English. She was very nervous. So she was defaulting, right?
Very
17 years old, you go to a new country and the family just picks you up at the airport. This is your family.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah.
So from that, she stayed with us and very quickly started picking up refreshing her English and got very fluent with it. But 3 months later, I take her down to Florida to visit, and my dad asks her a question. So I'm standing there next to her. Name was Nikki. I'm standing next to Nikki, and my dad says, "When you dream, do you dream in English or German?" And she thought for a minute. She says, "English." And my lights went on. I was like, "Holy cow! You can rewrite your subconscious in less than 3 months." So
Interesting.
it is. It is. So from that, I started working more on these filters, right? So she's seeing life through the English language, and now she drops the German and starts dreaming subconsciously
In
in
English.
English. That's very powerful. That's profound. So then I got to thinking, well, no matter what life is beating me up with, it just is a matter of changing my thoughts. And then eventually I'll start getting out of it and getting through it. We did have a horrible experience with one of our family members, and that took me a while to get out of it. And when I say a while, now I wrote this book. I know how to stay happy. I know to focus my thoughts, pick a thought that works for me. But
then it was challenged.
Then it was challenged. Yeah. And it took me about 30 days to really get out of it, because I'm looking at it and like, what good comes out of this? How could this possibly have happened? And then it took me a little bit, and it was just like, pick a better thought. Go. And then after a week,
get to the forgiveness.
All of it.
Right?
All of it. Compassion, forgiveness, service, all of it. Most of these 12 steps are interchangeable. Like, you can't really have trust without honesty. And so they go hand in hand quite often.
Sure.
Compassion and forgiveness, those both go together.
Well, I don't know this situation personally, and I don't want you to go any deeper into it, but one of the hardest things to get over is a betrayal, right? Because there's an established trust, that bond's broken, and that's a very difficult thing for humans to get over. And that's the story of the Bible, was Christ being betrayed. So we as humans shouldn't think we're above betrayal, right? We can always be betrayed, but that's a hard emotion to get over. If that was part of the story you're telling, I don't want to hear the details, but that's one that I could see taking a little while to get through that system. That emotion.
One of the things I like to do with a new class is I'll give them an example of each one of these 12, the definition of the 12 steps. And then I'll let them look at that list for a few minutes and say, which one of these feels most awkward for you, or one that you don't want to deal with? And quite often they come up with forgiveness.
That's a tough one.
Forgiveness is a tough one. And I often think of this, so I'm driving, and I'm a very patient, slow driver.
Me too, Ernie. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So when somebody cuts me off, when I was 17 years old, somebody would cut me off, and the first thing I would say is, "See you in a ditch, buddy." Yeah. And I got to thinking, that doesn't feel right. Right inside, and I pay attention to my emotions and what's doing to my body. Is my breathing okay? And my thoughts okay? So somebody would cut me off, and I used to say at 17, "I'll see you in a ditch, buddy." I was like, that's not me. That doesn't feel right. So I changed that to, I hope you get where you're going patiently, safely and without issue. And so my whole purpose for bringing this up is I often use this one. I can forgive anybody for anything, and here's why. Jesus was on the cross, and they're killing him. And what's he saying? One of his last words is, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do."
Yeah.
And I think, well, if he's getting killed and he's forgiving people, I can easily forgive this person that just cut me off in the road, or easily forgive somebody who slanders my name or blames me for something that I didn't do. So that the forgiveness is a big one. I think that's part of our culture, and taking things personal and trying to figure all that out.
Yeah, no, that's a great conversation. I think people that don't get through the forgiveness deal with a lot of suppressed anger, would be the way to say that. They just don't deal with those emotions. And the hardest part with forgiveness is learning to forgive yourself. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
We make a lot of mistakes.
Absolutely. So that spread from a stranger to the most significant relationship is yourself. Mm-hmm. If you look at that, the weighted negativity and positivity that I have upon myself is much more important than what I may or may not have with a stranger. And what I mean by that, so people are more important to you as they get closer to you. The more you know them, the more significant. That's the word I was looking for. Significant. The more significant
the relationship and friendship is,
and the more significant they can hurt you or help you too. So a great example, I imagine if I'm walking down the street at night with my wife and we're going to go see a movie at the theater, and right before we get there, a drunk guy comes out of the alley and just says all these horrible things to my wife. You're this, you're that, you this. I'm like, okay, well, let's just pass him and go see the movie. So we don't put a lot of weight in that. He's probably drunk and he doesn't know us.
Doesn't know. Yeah. So
he wouldn't say that if he knew us.
Sure.
So from that, I said, okay, now let's say we watch the movie, we go home, and your mom, talking to my wife, your mom is sitting on the couch and she says those exact same words to you.
Ooh, yeah, they sting.
Right. Why?
She knows you.
That's
She's
because
your vulnerabilities.
We take
criticism,
significance to the people who are closer to us. So it's the same words, right? We didn't give that weight to that guy, so why give the weight to mom? And so what it comes down to is all the problems are very basic. All problems are just simple. They have different situations, but all the problems are the same. They're based on the same thing. So if I can forgive that guy, why can't I forgive mom? You know, and you were talking about forgiveness a minute ago, and forgiveness is poison. If you don't forgive, if you hold a grudge against somebody, that is poison for my soul, not yours. You don't even know I'm mad at you. And this just eats me up alive.
That's the definition I've heard for anger. It's like swallowing poison and hoping the other person dies.
It's interesting you bring up anger, because just this week I heard somebody on a podcast, as a matter of fact, that was talking about anger. And he said, anger is the emotional trauma you give yourself to emotional punishment that you do to yourself, blaming somebody else. And I don't like being angry. That doesn't fit.
Yeah, it's not a good emotion.
Right. If I get my thoughts and feelings aligned, I'm very powerful. I can do wonderful things. If not, if I feel it, and it's no good.
Well, part of getting over anger or not being angry is a perspective. I guess the best way to put this would be, you don't take things personal, right? Like when somebody reacts or does something, it's not a personal reflection of who you are.
Right.
And so you start to learn, I don't need to have a reaction. That's once you get that down, you can really start to control the anger. Like take the person cutting you off. You can get extremely angry at that situation, right? You know, this jerk doesn't care about me. They're cutting me off. They're making my life miserable. I had to slam on the brakes, whatever it is, versus that person doesn't know me. This wasn't personal. It wasn't intentional. They might be an idiot. We're not going to argue that part, but I don't have to have a reaction to that situation. Yeah.
I got a great example for that. I was in counseling training in San Diego, California. So to become a counselor, you have to go through a lot of training and a lot of screening to see if you're the right person. Because I'm going to be talking to people about really life-changing scenarios and their addictions. So
yeah, and you have to give good counsel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're sitting in a group. There's 14 of us in a circle, and the task for the day was tell the person which one of these 14 is the worst counselor in the group.
Ooh.
And believe me, we were close. The 14 of us were very close because these deep conversations started on day one. So you get 3 months into deep conversations and child abuse and other things that had happened to us. It was amazing, some of the stories that I heard. So they said, Ernie, you're first. Who's the worst counselor in the group? So I had this guy named Fred that was sitting next to me, and Fred was a wonderful guy, but he was not a counselor. If I told him, I said, yeah, I had this ugly situation happen at home, and Fred would go, what kind of car you drive? What kind of gas mileage you get? He just was totally disconnected. He was not a counselor at all. Right. So I turned to Fred and I said, Fred, sorry, but you are the weakest link in this group. And so we get going around the group. Everybody's pointing to Fred. Fred starts crying. Now he's a grown man. We are hurting his feelings bad. but that was the task at hand. So I had to have the courage to tell Fred,
tell the truth.
This isn't for you, right?
Yeah.
So this goes on. We get to number 14, and it was a guy named Chris. Chris was an artist, and I was an artist, so we do some drawing in the barracks after hours, and I got pretty close to Chris. And like I said, they used to call me E.F. Hutton in this group because I'm pretty good at counseling and communicating and talking. So Chris looks at me and says,
goes, Ernie's the worst.
Ernie's the worst.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And so instantly I wanted to attack it immediately because I knew here I'm 14 peers. He's attacking me. I was like, this isn't right. Everybody knows.
Yeah. Everybody knows it's this guy.
So then I'm thinking, well, if you really know who I am, you wouldn't be telling me that. So he's got something going on, right? If somebody comes running in this room and say, Ernie, and start swearing at me, yelling, they're the ones with the problem, not me, right? Mom on the couch yelling at me and my wife, she's the one with the problem, whatever the situation is. It's got nothing to do with me, so don't take it personal. So I'm sitting here, and all this is happening quick, right? I wanted to scream at Chris, like, "No, what's he talk about? It's Fred." So, anyways, I just sat there. I didn't say anything. I said, something's going on inside Chris because everybody knows he's full of it. So we get done with the class, and Fred's crying, and they ended up kicking him out shortly after that because he just wasn't a counselor. That wasn't his job. So we went to dinner that night as a group, all 14 of us, and Chris pulled me off the side.
Should have been 13 now.
Well, they didn't kick him out immediately, but it took him a couple days. So Chris pulls me off to the side at dinner. And he says, Ernie, he says, I was watching Fred get beat up and cry. He says, I just couldn't do it anymore. He says, and I knew you could handle it if I said that you were the worst. I was like, thanks a lot, man. But I get it. But the test was, do you have the courage to tell the truth?
Right.
And he didn't. Chris folded. Yeah.
Sure.
But you never know what the other people's got going on in their life. And one of the things I often remind myself is we're all on our own journey, right? You got Mike stuff going on. I got Ernie stuff going on. My wife, Susan, has Susan stuff going on. My kids have stuff going on. And through these filters that we build and scrub and figure out what works for me, that's the cornerstone of my life is I'm on this journey. This is what I do. This is why I do it. Mm-hmm. So for Chris to have done that, I didn't know what was going on, but I knew something was going on with him. So I'm not taking that personal. I try my best not to take anything personal, and it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah, that's one. There was a book written on that, like the 4 things.
Yes, 4 agreements.
4 agreements, yes.
Yep.
Let's try to remember these. So one of them was always give your best, which doesn't mean the best all the time. You could be sick. You still just have to give your best. Don't take anything personal. Words. Integrity.
Speak with integrity.
Yeah, and kindness or something. Like really being good with your words. What was the 4th one?
I always forget.
Are we going to remember it? Oh, that was a good book. I read that years ago.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And if you look, there's some of the 4 agreements that are in here.
Sure.
Because basic principles of life, do good. So from there, I really start breaking down thoughts. And one of the journey things I was just telling you about, we're all on our own journey. And I do believe in general that people are doing the best they know with what they have available. So during the shutdown, if I don't have any finances, I can't pay bills, I'm going to do things differently than if the money is flowing in as normal. So life has dynamic changes, and it's up to us to figure out what I'm going to do with those dynamic changes. Mm-hmm. That old Leave It to Beaver show where everybody's happy and everything is just perfect, and the worst thing that ever happens is the dog gets out of the yard.
That's not real life.
That doesn't happen.
Grab that little triangle in front of you.
All right.
So those dynamic changes fall underneath this first one here under transitions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yep.
Expected, unexpected, positive, or negative. And these are how things present themselves in life. You can have a dynamic change that was unexpected and negative. The problem is if you go to number 2, it can affect your identity deeply. See that?
Oh, yeah.
So it can have a physical effect, intellectual, emotional, or spiritual. And then go to number 3. It can really shake up your feeling of purpose. So one of the things that I figured out with this triangle was that dynamic challenge can sometimes shake people to the core, where they lose their identity and they lose their purpose. And if you get that scenario spiraling, or you add a couple of scenarios like that on top of each other, people can completely lose perspective. Right? And then if you add poor coping skills, this is where your addiction counseling gets in, drugs, alcohol, any of those kind of things, you have a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
People just aren't making decisions in the right mind. So.
When life offers something that is negative, a struggle, something we don't even want to deal with, there's a few ways of dealing with it. And one of those is numbing out. And alcohol works great for one night, right? I got this.
Or every night if you drink for 2 weeks.
Well,
but
that's coming.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Yeah.
So whatever this life event is horrible. There's whatever. Situation A happens and I don't want to deal with it. So I drink tonight and I'm numb. I don't pay attention to it. Everything's great. Wake up with a hangover, but next day, oh, why was I drinking last night? Oh, because this event A happened. Oh, well, let's drink again tonight. And then pretty soon it does work, but then you string on all the other problems that happens to it. Addiction and relationship. It works for numbing out. It's
it works for numbing out. I wouldn't say it works.
No.
It definitely disconnects you.
Right.
Yeah, I joke about alcohol being like the ultimate dissolver. It dissolves relationships, bank accounts, friendships, everything. Like you'd start drinking heavy, and that's where it's going.
Yeah.
Right. Just because you keep avoiding the main issue. Right.
Right. Then after a long time, now I'm an alcoholic and I still have event A to deal with.
And you have 10 more events you haven't dealt with.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. There are other things that add on.
Add on to that. And alcoholism typically adds them on faster when you get a drunk driving, or, you can't get employment. There's a lot of other factors in there. Yeah. And so this one was one of the ones we had come up with, the veterans we worked with. That's how we figured that out. And then step 4 there, is the life acronym, 4 ways of service, or 4 ways to add to someone's life through labor, influence, finance, or expertise.
Let's talk about the influence one for a second.
Let's do it.
I was working in Pellston during a blizzard with this guy from Egypt. His name was Mohammed. Had the full thick beard, and Mohammed was from Egypt, and he was up here. He's an engineer doing some job with me on this tower. Well, we had to go outside, work outside in the blizzard, and every time we'd open up the door, he'd look at all his snow. Right, he's from Egypt. He's not used to that.
Probably never seen it.
And he would just swear, and then we'd close the door. Well, this job ended up lasting about 2 weeks because the snow delays, and we'd have to shovel it out and thaw it out and all this other stuff. So anyways, he and I spent a lot of time sitting on top of his mountain waiting for the snow to quit. And one of the things I was talking to him about was the influences. And I said, you never know what impact you have on somebody else's life. So we were talking, and one of the things I brought up was assumptions. Don't have assumptions. Have the courage to remove that assumption. So if something's going on, talk to the person. Hey, this is what
clarify
felt like. Right.
Yeah.
And I lost track of Muhammad. And then a year or 2 years later, after he had gone back to Egypt, another job opened up. So I called him. I had his email or phone number or something. So anyways, I contact Muhammad, and he said, Ernie, I've been thinking about you. I said, really? Why? He said, you remember when you told me don't assume anything, have the courage to ask the question to remove all assumptions? I said, yeah. He said that he's an engineer, so gets back to Egypt, and somebody asked him to do a small job that was way below what his knowledge and expertise was. And what I'll just say was a traffic light. They want to install a traffic light in a roundabout or something like that. He said that
that's peanuts to you guys, isn't it?
Right. And so he says, I deserved a much better job than that. And he said, I remember what you said about assumptions. So I went to my boss and I asked him, he said, why did you put me on that job? He says that this particular intersection was next to the palace, and the Prince of Egypt would see this every day, and they wanted to put their best guy on the job so that it never became an issue and the prince wouldn't complain about this thing. And his light came on. He's like, Ernie, you're right. So he was able to do this job, influence, the prince would be happy with it.
Yeah.
And it was all he figured it all out because he had the courage to ask and remove these.
Otherwise, he would have been upset.
Still upset.
Went out in the field like, why am I doing a stoplight?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
So you never know the impact you have on people. You just don't.
Mm-hmm. So what about labor? How's that one way we could help and give back?
That's one of my favorite. Helping people makes me feel good. And it all comes back to, what am I doing? Does this make me feel good? If it does, I keep it. If it doesn't, get rid of it. So there was a little old lady that lived next to me in Onaway, and every winter she would heat her house with a wood stove. Well, I went over there to help stack the wood because they'd take a dump truck, just drop it in their driveway. This stuff is frozen. Yeah, it's frozen together. It's heavy. And these, wherever she bought it, they were particularly large logs, right? They weren't little things that I would want to stick in my little wood stove.
They weren't split down, yeah.
So I would go over there and service, right? Labor. So I would carry these things up to her porch. I never entered her house, but I'd carry them up and stack them on her porch. And then as that pile started getting down, I'd go back out there and do it again a couple weeks later, or a month later, whatever needed. Well, my wife didn't like that. She said, there's plenty of things to do around our house. I said,
wait, let's be clear. Your first wife.
First wife.
Your second wife would probably be fine with that.
She would have helped me. She probably would have helped me.
That's a difference in mentality, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm a homeowner. There's a laundry list of things I have to do. Right. But I wanted to help this little old lady and stack her firewood.
Sure.
So my ex-wife was upset that I would go spend time over there at all. So I had to wait until she went off to babysit the grandkids, and then I'd sneak over there during the day when this lady was working. And so I'm there alone, and I'd stack her firewood up and don't say anything, just stack it up. She knew who did it. Yeah. And my ex-wife had no idea that I was still going over there stacking up firewood, but it was service. It's labor. So something I could do to help somebody, and it could just be holding a door open for them. It doesn't have to be anything significant.
Yeah.
But you never know how it's going to affect people.
Yeah. Well, is that lady still alive?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, that's a nice one. All right. Well, do you have any other things you want to touch? Let's hear it.
Home run questions. So when I want to explore with somebody, even a stranger, I will ask 3 or 4 different questions. And one of those questions are, you're on an elevator. Elevator opens up, you're going down or up. Doesn't matter. I guess up. Let's go up. And Jesus walks in on this elevator, and it's just you and him. You have 90 seconds. What would you say to Jesus? What would you ask? What would you do? You got 90 seconds and that's it. And that question right there really opens up people, whether they're religious or not, it doesn't matter. But it really opens up and you start breaking down. First of all, if I'm going to ask you that question, I really want to know. And you can feel the bond of the question, right? This is one of my home run questions. So that starts breaking into what is going on in their mind, because you're not going to ask Jesus anything except for something important to you, right? So it could be, right? It could be whatever. So anyways, that's one of my home run questions. Another one I like to ask is, what would you tell a child at the age of 12 that they're going to remember for the rest of their life? And I've asked that question hundreds of times. I only had one guy that was joking around and said something stupid, but other than that, it's a direct window into their soul, because you're not going to tell a 12-year-old child something that's horrible, right? You're going to tell them something
some of the best advice you could think of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From my experiences, this is what I would do. And that will really open up people quick. Sure. And from there, you can just go deeper and deeper, reflect. Oh yeah, it looks like that's important to you. It is important. Why? And well, when I was a kid, this happened. And then now you're in the wheelhouse. Now you're talking to them. You're really bonding.
Right.
And then another one is, what would you tell yourself at the age of 12? And that's a deep one, because
a lot of people carry a lot of hurt.
Yes.
From their childhood.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the ones that hurt the most is child sexual abuse.
Sure.
Because
I know.
Right.
Yeah. The betrayal of trust.
I know a friend of mine in Detroit, she was sexually molested as a child, and she went to her parents and she said, Mom, Uncle Tom did this stuff to me. And you're like,
They didn't
Uncle
believe
Tom
her.
would never do that to you. You must have you don't know what you're talking about. Go back outside and play. So here's the two most important people in her life that she's supposed to be trusting and talking to,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't believe her. So then what? So that's when I call it the silent killer, because nobody talks about it now, right? It's just they start piling up, and next thing you know, they're emotionally struggling with everything. They can't have a successful relationship, and addictions start coming in because they want to numb out.
Yeah, they want to cope with the pain,
and they don't know how. That's another thing. Is most people don't know how to scrub your beliefs and figure it out. Yeah. And forgiveness, that's another. Forgiveness shows up all the time, quite often.
It's definitely a common theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
was stationed in the Navy with a girl. Her name was Afia. She was from Ghana, Central Africa. And she and I were up there on the quarterdeck in the middle of the night from midnight to 4 a.m. And I would ask her about her country. Tell me about your family. And she said that they were barefoot, and her dad would make beer. But the only place you can get the roots to make the beer was 20 miles away.
Was that root beer?
Yeah. I know.
That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah. Not really.
He's making alcoholic beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was from one tribe. Her mom was from another tribe. So when they got married, the two tribes would not allow them to interact or connect. So they were basically isolated. So he makes a little corner store, starts selling beer, making and selling beer. So he would send the kids out. And I don't remember how many were, 4 or 6 kids. And they would walk 20 miles with a machete and chop these roots out of the jungle, and then walk 20 miles back with carrying this stuff, right?
Sure.
So here she is. She told me as soon as she could walk and carry, that was part of her job.
Yeah.
So from that, I often reflect on how good we have it, especially here in the United States. I've seen people complain when their phone goes from 5G to 4G, right?
They lose it.
They lose it. And then I think about this young girl walking. Machete is to protect her from snakes, but if there's other bad guys out there, guerrilla warfare, she's got nothing. Her and her family's got nothing to protect themselves with. So anyways, every once in a while I'll look outside, maybe it's snowing, and somebody will tell me, oh, it's terrible that it's snowing. I say, well, it's just a little bit of snow. It's okay. We're not being chased by lions and hippos.
Right.
We're going to be okay. Yep. If you wait a few minutes, it's going to thaw anyways.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that causes us to lose perspective the most is prosperity. Right. So this country, we're doing this podcast in the United States. The United States has had 90 years of prosperity. I mean, big prosperity, right? To the fact that we're all carrying phones, driving cars on the roads. And a lot of people cannot take themselves, like what you're saying, and go back and realize how hard it was, what we've come from, how thankful we need to be that things work. So I have a very thankful heart because I also know what it's like to struggle. So I wake up, I'm thankful for heat, running water, family. I'm always going through my blessings. I don't take it for granted, and I don't get upset when little things don't work sometimes. So it's a good perspective there.
Yeah. Yeah. Being grateful as I go to bed every night, I go through a list, and I'm grateful for my relationships, my health, my finances, the fact that we are in the United States and not being chased by lions and hippos. Gratitude is, in my opinion, the most powerful emotion that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can definitely reorient us. All right, what else you
got? Tribes. I was listening to a podcast, and this guy started talking about tribes, and I try not to associate myself with any particular tribe, whether it's religious, political, a group of people, because if I say I am left or right wing, that means I've identified myself as that. That means I have to be against the other ones, which isn't true. I think Joe Rogan said that he is politically homeless, and that is my favorite saying to describe me. Yeah, that is pretty accurate. But I remember one of the reasons we don't talk about politics is people just want to fight. And I was having dinner with a guy last month, and we're sitting there talking, and maybe I agree with 90% of what he says and his political views, but he will want to fight me for that last 10% to try to convert me over to be 100% like him. And I don't want any part of that. And I mean, literally, we had to stop the conversation 3 times. I said, let's have dinner. I don't want to talk about politics. And Susan, my wife, jumps in and says, let's stop. What are you doing?
Right.
And I'm asking, please stop this, because it's not going anywhere where I wanted it to go.
Sure.
So I'm very careful with associating my name as anything, Republican, Democrat, whatever my religious beliefs are. Everything changes. Everything is dynamic, right? If I'm offered this piece of information, I might lean that way. If I'm offered this piece of information, I might lean that way. Mm-hmm. So I like to be fluid. That's the key right there. Be able to change my mind according to the dynamics and information presented to me. The weird thing is, I don't know what's true anymore. And we never.
Social media is causing that problem. Yeah.
Yes. And AI.
So that's going to be a big.
Yeah. Yes.
That's going to be very strange.
I'm trying to teach my grandkids now to question everything they see on the internet, because it may or may not be true. And
that's weird.
It is weird.
Yep.
It really is. Some of it's funny too. There's some Bob Ross videos out there, the artist, the Happy Tree, and he's interacting with maybe Ice Cube or some old rapper, and it's just hilarious. But it's not true.
Right.
So we got to be careful.
But you know that because you have a framework of knowing Bob Ross when he's alive.
Yeah.
The kids today don't know that.
Right.
They could think that's
still
happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very cautious with associating my name to anything, because you can get caught in a corner that you don't want to be in, and it really doesn't even identify you. So I'm very cautious of that. Another one is, we don't know what's going on. And when I say that, I'm looking at this water right here. And if you break that water down to the atomic level, that electron, as we're looking at it, disappears and comes back. This thing is mostly hollow. This desk is a shell of electrons. So this thing's mostly hollow, but it feels solid. And this water, it's not me, right? I'm here, there's my water. But if I take a drink of it, it becomes me.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know anything. We think we do. I walk around like, I know what's going on.
Yeah, we do. We as humans do think we know too much.
Yes.
There's a lot we don't understand.
Yes. And there's a story that I often tell my grandkids and people at work. It's I call it the maybe story. And this guy lives in a village, and you have a stallion, and the stallion runs away, gets out and escapes at night. And all the villagers come to the farmer and they say, isn't it terrible that your stallion ran off? And the farmer looks, maybe. Everybody looks at him weird. And next day, the stallion comes back, and he's got 3 other horses that followed him. So now the farmer has 4 horses. And so the villagers come back and they said, isn't it amazing that now you have 4 horses, that your stallion came back and brought 3 more? And he says, maybe. So the next morning, the son goes out to feed and water the horses, and one of the wild horses kicks the son in the leg and breaks his leg. And all the villagers come up to the farmer and say, isn't it amazing, or isn't it horrible that your son got hurt by this horse? And the farmer says, maybe. So everybody scratches their head. Okay, whatever. The next day, the government comes by to pick up young single men to be in the army to go fight. And they see the boy with a broken leg, and they skip past him. They move on. And then the villagers come back. Isn't it amazing and great that your son didn't get picked up for the army? And the farmer's response again is maybe. Mm-hmm. So I use that because we don't know. And I do believe
things happen.
Life, we are exactly where we're supposed to be at the time that we're supposed to be here. Mm. So that allows me to have faith and know it's going to be okay.
Sure.
It's going to be all right.
It's going to be all right.
No matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I try to stay flexible, dynamic. Things are changing all the time. The filters that I use, I think I have this in the book. One of the examples I use about filters is, if I am driving my car and it's a manual transmission, I get in the car, I turn the key on. Okay, I got to push the clutch in, first gear. After that, I don't think about it again until I get to my destination, and then I got to put it in first gear and turn it off to make sure it doesn't roll. Other than that, the whole time I'm driving, I'm not thinking about shifting. Right. So this is a filter Okay, I'm driving this car with a manual stick shift or manual shift. I get to work, I get in a government vehicle, it's automatic. So I get in there, okay, automatic, push brake, start it and go, put it in drive and go. And I don't think about shifting gears. I don't think about being in automatic again. So the filters are dynamic. How we are operating through life is ever changing with our knowledge and experiences and our values. But you got to scrub them. You got to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And if you don't, you'll end up down some rabbit hole that it's not who you are.
That is why I call this midlife wisdom.
Oh, there you go. Scrubbing our beliefs. That's right.
You got to figure a lot of things out. So, well, I think we've talked about a ton of stuff. I think that's a good spot to kind of sign off.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a wonderful experience.
It's been a wonderful conversation for our listeners and people watching. Let's take a book here, 12 Steps to Happiness, Ernie Wood. You want to dig into that book, you're more than welcome to find that on Amazon. Ernie will be there. And if you want to find me at thepurposemaker.com, get on the newsletter, which will definitely let you know when we're doing our next episode. So have a great rest of your day, and thank you for your time listening to us here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.